Welcome back to the channel, Crypto Trend Trader, with a quick update on Bitcoin. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you it's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. Alright, here we got our Kraken chart, and as you can see, we've been planning on essentially getting this next pop-up here and basically test the top of the range one more time. Essentially try to break through. A lot of people are getting bullish, especially right now, calling for this massive breakout. And what I'm seeing is essentially like a third push up for divergence to develop and essentially get the completion of the head and shoulders on our shorter time frame, and then basically break down from our wedge that we've been creating. Don't worry about this chart; it's a little on the busy side, but a lot of times essentially what will happen is we'll get like that pop up, push back and test multiple times, and especially if we get like a breakout to a let me go to the daily really quick. This is how you know that the market makers are absolutely phenomenal in this space, because this is the absolute best close you could possibly have if for indecision. You push the price all the way up to a resistance or all the way down to a support, and then when you close it there, you basically have an entire day, 24 hours now, of indecision, where people don't know, is it going to now like pivot down or pivot up. So that pivot basically on the market is where we've been, essentially like indecision. We closed here and now we just pivoted here for a whole day, pivoted here for a whole day, and now here we are pivoting the same spot for a whole day. So now whichever way this market decides to go in, it's going to be obviously like very strong volatility. Now look, what I'm seeing here is this is obviously in my opinion, a bearish pattern. We're basically like moving back up off of an overall downtrend, and then this is like the retrace of a capitulation. And then we're also at like our capitulation from previous like previous time. But essentially what happened here is we've been slowly floating up, and the whole time there's sell volume coming in, but it's the volume is slowly diminishing as the price goes up. So that's one form of divergence. And then also, on the daily, we're getting right here. This is the point we were talking about, where you always run into like support and resistance right when these two lines come together. The histogram is coming to the negative slope, so we're going to run into resistance. And if it was the other way around, if the histogram is coming down and the slope was blue, we would find support off of it and attempt to rally. And then here on the TJD Stokes slope, we got the buy signal at the bottom here, and we've just been floating up the whole time. We're probably not going to make it all the way up to the top and get it red before it dumps, just because typically you're going to see these extend out longer on like counter trend. So since we're overall in a downtrend, we're not going to see nearly as many of the reds. And then when we're in an uptrend, we're not going to see nearly as many of like the greens. So obviously we're in a uptrend this whole time, it's going to stay red. We're in a downtrend this whole time, it's going to stay green. Uptrend this whole time, it's going to stay red. Downtrend this whole time, it's going to stay green. You know what I mean? So we're not going to get like that red flash like we normally would here, until we can reverse this trend, and then we might start seeing some of these come in. Because that's basically a lagging indicator. Now in shorter time frames, you might be able to get a little more out of it, but not on the longer time frame. So, but yeah, that's basically what I'm seeing over here. Essentially, I did want to pull this back up as well. This was the chart we were looking at the other day with like the typical indicators on it. And here's our RSI. And now look, we have essentially a support and resistance zone on the RSI going back to the 13th. So that's basically like the last 2 weeks we've been forming this, and we've been just essentially like watching this and trading off of not only the oscillators and indicators on shorter time frames, but also off of obviously the clear resistance and support. So we just got that bounce here. We're expecting it to pull up to the top here, and then essentially we're at that decision point. And that's exactly what I was saying about the perfect close for like market makers, because it's just complete indecision on a pivot point at like a daily close. So now, if you're trading the daily, that's it. You're waiting until tomorrow because there's been no decision essentially, or indecision. And then here we got the Stokes just started curving up, and now look, it's the exact same thing as the RSI. Exact same thing. We've just been coming up in this same channel. This one goes back to February 26th. February 26th. This support here. If you don't want to count that one, you can go to this one and get like a little bit more of an accurate like angle basically on it. But essentially, it's just telling us like it's telling us the same thing. You know what I mean? We're coming back up here. We get one more stab up, and that's our third. That's our third level of divergence. And now look again, MACD, bottom of the MACD, same area. Look at that, and we found support on it again coming up. And now look, top here, top here. Now I just like kind of like guess where that would come out to, but it could come right here. It could just be like this, and we get one little tick up, one little green tick, and then it dumps. You know what I mean? And we're about to flash it over, and now look, 1, 2, 3 drives, and now each one is smaller than the previous one. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. Regardless, I mean, there's all this like quantitative easing and all this money, and there has been a massive sell-off, and there's a lot of reasons why you can say that the technicals didn't work in hindsight, and they're never going to work 100%. But I know what I'm seeing here, and I know what I typically see and how it works out usually. So I got to stick with the technicals, stick with the indicators, stick with the oscillators, and we'll see where it goes. And you can be wrong, because with proper risk management and position sizing, you don't have to be right on every trade. You be right more than half the time and have good position sizing and risk management, and you will succeed in this market. And honestly, I hope this does just continue up here, and I really do hope this quantitative easing hits and just blows up Bitcoin, because the truth is, although I think there's going to be a lag, and I think we're going to continue down for a little while, and I think like there'll be like an initial like hyperinflation followed by like deflation followed by like hyperinflation, like for real. And I think we're only in the first stages, because markets don't do what you expect them to do. They do the opposite. So everybody right now thinks Bitcoin is about to like break out and go to like $1,000,000, and gold and silver and all this stuff. I think it's much more likely that we see a pinch, a real pinch over time, where people just start slowly like selling everything off. And then, the smart, wise money, after the grind and the real just bloodshed and time has hurt people and price has hurt people, and the economy is just not recovering in the world, and not to be negative, but that's when recessions and depressions and the money is made. That's when the assets are really scooped up, because it's not just about the price, it's about the time too. Those are two different factors that can wear somebody out in this game, especially in a leverage game. So, and I mean like the game of life, or like trading, you know what I mean? I don't mean like, obviously with everything going on right now, I take it very seriously. But that's what I'm looking at. That's what I see right now. And, there's a lot of optimism right now that all this money's just going to get pumped in here, there, whatever. I mean, I think it's more likely that we're going to see just massive amounts of distribution. I think this money is realistically like an exit strategy for these businesses and for all this like stocks and all this money. I don't think that this is intended to, or going to, or even able to save the economy. I think, and I don't know what the other world economies are doing, but I know everybody's like printing mad money. So, to me, that's basically printing money is essentially like the exit scam for the rich. They're basically, essentially like exiting into cash, and then they're going to use that cash to purchase real assets like real estate and gold and all that stuff. But way before any of that happens, way before all that stuff gets picked up, the markets have to crash, or else it's like you never even went into like a recession or depression. Like you just continued up in the uptrend. So if the quantitative easing works, and like all these trillions of dollars work, and they can restore like faith in the market and rebuild the economy, and the world can just get a jump start and keep going, like just one more blap blap from the defibrillator. I mean, yeah, I definitely think that we could just continue on up and keep going. I mean, we're in uncharted territory right now with every asset, with every market. You know what I mean? Not only with crypto, but with the stock market too. Like the Fed has never printed $6 trillion like this before. Like not in a short period of time, maybe over time. I mean, we are literally like pulling out the stops here. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I worst case scenario, we flip over when the time comes, and we get bullish in this market, and I will just sit back and relax, and honestly, I'll probably shed a tear, because it'll basically be the payoff for all this hard work we've done. And like the start of the next bull market is basically a year, 18 months, couple years of just crushing. Very little work and very much reward, and very little time invested too, because the smart man can just sit back and appreciate. As where in a bear market you really have to trade more or short. And I always prefer to go long on an asset than short, because an asset can only ever go down 100%, but it can go up unlimited amounts. And when we hit this next bull run, and these assets start to, or these coins or cryptos or whatever projects, start to regain some of their value, and dev teams start working on them again, and that money starts flowing back into the space, like we're going to see actual developments and actual quality projects and accomplishments. In a bear market, it's very hard for people to like develop anything, because you're like bare bones everything. A lot of these guys like have to quit working on projects and go get real jobs, because they have everything invested in these projects, literally everything, their life savings. So if these projects like fail, they essentially, like, unless they exit scammed on their people, if they're a legitimate project, if they fail, I mean, that's basically like zero, or in some cases negative, for a lot of these, a lot of these people. So I mean, in the bear markets, a lot of times too, you're not even going to see people coming out with like their developments. They might be working on something and they don't even want to push it out in the bear market, because they have a vested interest in this project. And a lot of times what'll happen is they'll get like that initial like pump, and then it'll just dump back off and do more damage than it did good, because it gives like that momentum to the downside. So a lot of times they will have like developments or whatever, and they'll keep them behind the scenes, or they'll wait to come out with them, or worse yet, they won't even work on them. And like I said, over time, prices grind low enough, and you know, you get squeezed in enough places, and eventually these things fail. I mean, I'm going to do a video on this very soon about miner capitulation, and hash rate dropping and all this stuff. And the truth is that depending how this affects our economy, we may have a surplus of energy, or we may have a lack of energy. We may have a surplus of mining technologies, or a lack. I mean, this can affect a lot of things. Like, it may be harder to get parts for miners, therefore like a lot of the miners go offline. The price of electricity may change. There's a lot of things that could happen, and with this happening coming up, essentially we're going to see people switching off. Because if Bitcoin's price doesn't basically like double from now, a lot of these miners and mining farms are already mining at a loss. And most of them are mining with like, half the energy cost of like your typical population. And, you're going to start to see a lot of these people disappearing. And if we continue down, we're going to see a lot of influencers and traders and, investors, disappearing as well. Not only from crypto, but from traditional markets as well. So be very careful here, who you listen to, and what your bias is in these markets, because everything in real life, aside from like crazy quantitative easing, says these markets should be continuing down, and we're going into a recession, and this is the real deal, and people are sick, and the economy's shutting down, and it's potentially depression. But meanwhile, they're faking this whole facade around the world, printing all this money, acting like everything's fine and we're just going to go about our business. So be very careful at this time, because, anything could happen here. I mean, we could literally like just double, the stock market could double in price all of a sudden, and we could just go on an epic bull run. Or we could literally like, the bottom could just fall out of it. And, this could just be essentially, these liquidity injections could just be, used for, selling into by like big money. And another thing too is, as some of these stocks like take big hits and don't have the correct assets and correct balance sheets and everything, they get downgraded. And essentially, when they get downgraded too low, like hedge funds and investment groups and stuff have to drop them off of their balance sheets, because they're then considered to be like too much of a risk. And when they start dropping them, it happens all at once. It's essentially like algorithms like triggering, so we're going to start seeing these. And, when we get crazy unemployment numbers coming in of like 3+ million, and, probably another 3 million, before long, I mean, especially if they put some of these unemployment like incentives into place that are essentially incentivizing people not to work, we could see 10 million real quick. I mean, it's we don't know what's going to happen here. So, the best place to be is in cash on the sidelines, you know, as long as this uncertainty is going on. And if you're a hardcore hodler, long believer in crypto, by all means. If you're a trader, you want to sit it out, by all means. If whatever it is, it's up to you. This is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile. So please do your own research and trade responsibly. I'm just giving my honest opinion in these situations. And it looks like all this money coming into the market should pump the market up. And we get a few days of stock market just straight pump and everything looks great. That to me is like an epic fake out. But I don't know. Maybe that's me. We're still in a downtrend. We're in a confirmed downtrend. And I expect us to continue in this downtrend, until we're not. So, we're at that decision point. We're basically at the resistance. We're at basically the previous capitulation area. Essentially looking, can we find this are we going to find it as resistance right now, or can we break back above it and then come back, find it as support and go? And that's where I'll enter into a long position if that's what it looks like. If we break above here and then come back and retest, I'll probably go long there on the retest, for real long. And then obviously start stepping in as like the moving averages are flipping over and we're getting confirmations and everything. But currently it just doesn't, this does not look like it's about to just pump to the moon to me. It looks like what's about to happen here is we're about to get rejected on the histogram here and roll over. We'll get a nice little wick to the upside here, and then we can get that sell off, and then it's just going to look like we came up here and got like a strong push up and then came back down, slowly floated up, and then just kind of rolled back over. And then at that point in time, it's basically going to look like essentially like a Adam and Eve. If you look at, this came up here, put in like the Adam, came back down, retrace, and then this is like the rounding top, Eve, and then comes back down, and then, if we come back down to the neckline here at like 58.40, we'll look for the break, and then probably like back down to the bottom of the range. And then we'll know obviously that, this is going to be like actually our fifth wave, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and we'll know it's a legitimate wave if we can break through here and get that continuation. But currently it looks like it's going to be a swing pattern failure. But I do like how this price action is starting to develop right here. I like to see 3 candles like that in a row, each progressively bigger than the last. So essentially, if this candle pushes up here and we close like a third green candle that's bigger than this candle, like to a lot of people, that will be basically like a 3 white soldiers like confirmation that we're going to move to the upside. But you do have to be very, very careful also, because a lot of times what will happen is there'll be a 3-line strike. So the 3 white soldiers will come up and basically will put in like 3 bullish candles and confirm like breakout basically to the market. And then right here at like that same area or just above it, like 7,000 range, all of a sudden we'll just get a massive sell-off and it will take out these 3 candles in a row and close below there at like 6,600. And then a lot of times that can either be a reversal or if you're bullish in the market, you can use that as an entry point for an actual long. But essentially at this point in time, you're waiting for either a break, pullback confirmation, and then continuation, or you're looking for like a strong rejection at this same spot for like the 3rd time, and then essentially you're getting that head and shoulders play out. So but yeah, that's it. I just wanted to touch base and hit you guys with the encore video, and we'll see how this price action plays out. I have been extremely busy. I am working on a little something for the community. Basically putting together, I mean, obviously I do like a lot of education, and I have all these free indicators that everybody's like able to use and download and learn. And I'm definitely here for the community, and I've been getting a ton back from it lately, which has been awesome. I'm definitely loving the interactions. But I've been actually putting together like a series of courses. So essentially, or a series of classes, a course that I'm going to be offering up to the community. And basically, it will just be like your I don't want to say entry level, because I'm not going to do like this like how to tutorial for like, how to use an exchange or whatever. Like you need to know how to like buy and sell crypto and stocks or whatever on your own. Like, but I'm talking about like actual technical analysis and like charting and everything. I would do like basically you know a series of videos, and that's basically be my way of giving it to the community, basically as a thank you. And as we grow and basically grow together, I know there's like a lot of experienced technical analysts and traders in the community as well. And I'm not pushing you guys out by any means. I'm just wanting to like bring everybody up to the same level. And I think by having essentially like a series of classes, like a course that's available to everyone for free, I think in one place, concentrated, that's quality content, I think people will be able to walk in, or whatever, they find this area, find this space, they're able to essentially like sit down and just get like brought up to speed. So that way, like, the entire community, it's like, somebody new in the community, hey, bam, check out the free classes, get up to speed, welcome, if you got any questions, holler at us. And then that way you're eliminating like that initial, hardest part, like that learning curve, because that's the hardest part, is to like get from point A to point B. Like from point B to point C can take years, but if you have like that jump start in the beginning, it can save you so much time and save you so much money. Especially when you're like new to a space, new to an asset, new to investing, like you want to go in like head first, and you made some gains already, and next thing you can end up blowing out your account or whatever, or investing in something like, I don't know, XRP. Like, no offense, no offense. But anyway, so I've been working on those, and it's still going to take some time. They're not coming out tomorrow or anything, but that is a little something I want you guys to start getting excited about, because I know a lot of people have been interested in classes and everything, and I know it's hard too, to understand like what you should buy, what's a good price point, because you can find classes from like a couple $100 to 5,000, depending on what scammer site you end up on, but essentially the idea is to just provide everybody with that baseline, and then we can go from there. And that's what I'm going to do, and I'm pretty excited about it. Actually, I'm really excited about it. So look for that in the near future, and keep your eyes peeled, obviously, for improvements. I want to give a shout out to a special member of the community once again for that awesome intro, which will become a permanent addition to the stream. And definitely appreciate all the interactions lately, guys. Really enjoying everything, and I think we could really look forward to growing not only as a community, but financially over time. So look forward to some serious growth here in the rest of the year. So just because we're stuck at home does not mean that we can't like grow together. And you can use this time to spend it with your family. Use this time to educate yourself. Basically to like fill in some of those like shortfalls that you have, like as a person, as a trader, as an investor, as a human being, as a parent, as a husband, a wife, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Just use this time to make ourselves better and grow from it, and come out of this whole situation like better for it. Like I said, like as like a race, like as freaking humanity, like let's go, baby. Crypto trend trader, and I'm out of here.